Happy Monday, friends. I'm AnnaLee Dragon, the director of the Kinderhook Memorial Library, and I am back with another Monday book talk. I also have some news, which you may or may not already know. It was in the Columbia paper last week or the week before. I am leaving the library, which is very bittersweet for me. I am moving on to become the executive director of the New York Library Association, which I am very excited about. But this place has been my home for 10 years, and I am going to miss it and all of you so very much. There is also great news in that Matt Pavlov, our teen librarian, who many of you may know, has been named the director to succeed me. So we are in excellent hands with Matt, and I am very excited for him and this opportunity that he's getting as well. I think you're all, if you don't know him, you should come meet him. He's wonderful. And I think you will all be very happy with the way that things go after my departure here. But I couldn't do a final book talk without, telling you all of this and sharing this with you, even though it's a very mixed feelings moment for me. This place is just, I will always think of this as part of my home and my foundation, and I'm going to miss everyone so terribly, and I so appreciate all of the kindness and generosity and good spirits and goodwill that you've given me in the time I've been here. And I hope that I will see you all again. I don't live far away. I'll be coming to visit for sure, and hopefully I'll get to see you all again. In the meantime, I thought for a final book talk, I was going to try and do an unboxing, but again, supply chain issues. So I have not been able to get any new books in, even though I've ordered them. So I fell back on my other plan, which was to just do a few of my favorites and leave you with a little piece of me in that way. I have talked about many of these books at other points. I've been doing these book talks for almost 2 years now, so I've talked about several of them throughout other book talks, but I'm sure nobody has watched all of these. So hopefully there will be a surprise or two for you in there that you haven't yet read. That you will enjoy as much as I did. So obviously asking a librarian to pick their favorite book is a difficult thing, but I think that I have picked 5 or 6 here that are among my favorites and for different reasons. So we have a little variety as well. Some fiction and nonfiction, like I do, and some things that are just really close to my heart and others that I just really enjoyed. So I'm going to put up a book cover, and then I'm going to, my eye is watering. I'm going to put up a book cover, and then I'm going to talk about that book, and then I will do that, yada, yada. At the end, I will put all the book covers again. And I just want you to know how much I've enjoyed this and how much I have appreciated you all watching and listening when you did. I didn't imagine anybody would be that interested in what I had to say about books, but I'm super glad you were, and that I hope this has been as much fun for you as it's been for me. So on that note, let's get started with some books. The first book I want to talk about is Lindsay West's Shrill, Notes from a Loud Woman. Now, for those of you who know me, it will be no surprise that I love this book. I am a loud woman myself. I love loud people and loud women, and I thought this book was all of the things. It gave me a sense of power and empowerment in not shrinking and not taking up less space just because I am a woman. It's also very funny. She's a comedian and she's hilarious, and she's smart, and she talks about gender and about politics and about she's just brilliant. And this book is what made me a fan. They did turn this book into a series on Hulu, which is with A.D. Bryant, which is fabulous. I still prefer the book, and it's just because it's her story, and listening to her tell it and not leaving any pieces out is my favorite thing. So it's called An Uproarious Memoir, a Feminist Rallying Cry in a World That Thinks Gender Politics Are Tedious and That Women, especially feminists, can't be funny. So it says that coming of age in a culture that demands women be as small, quiet, and compliant as possible, like a porcelain dove, writer and humorist Lindsay West quickly discovered that she was anything but. From a painfully shy childhood in which she tried unsuccessfully to hide her big body and even bigger opinions, to her public war with stand-up comedians over rape jokes, to her struggle to convince herself and the world that fat people have value, to her accidental activism and never-ending battle royale with internet trolls, Lindsay narrates her life with a blend of humor and pathos that manages to make a trip to the abortion clinic funny and wring tears out of a story about diarrhea. With inimitable humor, vulnerability, and boundless charm, Lindsay boldly shares how to survive in a world where not all stories are created equal and not all bodies are treated with equal respect, and how to weather that hatred, loneliness, harassment, and loss, and walk away laughing. This book did all of those things for me. It made me feel seen and heard. This is why we say representation matters so much in our collections, because being able to see yourself in the person writing the book and on the shelf of the library makes you feel recognized and validated in a way that's really important. And this book did that for me. I related to her on a deep level in a number of ways, and she's also just hugely smart and funny and entertaining, and I loved this book. So if you have not read Shrill, Notes from a Loud Woman by Lindsay West, I highly suggest you pick it up. Okay, next book. So our next book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, changed my life I think on a couple different occasions. I have recommended this book to everybody. I keep extra copies of it and I hand them out to people in my life who are important to me when they're dealing with tough situations. It is a book that is a little new agey, so it's not always my thing. However, there's something in this spoke to me. And I would say that even if you don't buy into the life-changing, my brother told me that when he gave it to me, and I was like, whatever, it didn't change your life, but it did, and then it changed mine as well. And I did not want to admit that to him. So I think whether or not you're at a place or the type of person who finds this kind of new agey stuff helpful to you, I think at the very least, you'll find it to be an enjoyable story to read. It's a fable about following your dreams. It's really nice and well written and enjoyable and calming and peaceful. So even if you're not looking for like the answer in life, I think you'll enjoy it. But I do think that if you're at a place where you are kind of searching for answers or considering a big change or any number of kind of like life moments, this might really speak to you, and it might give you some renewed faith in yourself and in your dreams and in your confidences. And I just feel like it's a book you should pick up and check out and see what you get from it. Maybe it's different than what I did, but I think it will be worthwhile for you. So it follows Santiago, a young Andalusian shepherd who yearns to travel in search of a worldly treasure as extravagant as any ever found. And the story of the treasure Santiago finds along the way teaches us, as only few stories can, about the essential wisdom of listening to our hearts, learning to read the omens strewn along life's path, and above all, following our dreams. So he purports in the book that our dreams from when we're young don't change. We think they do, but that they don't. It's that over the course of time as we age, we start to feel like we don't deserve these things or we're incapable of achieving them. And so we kind of settle and adjust our dreams down. But that if you really listen to your heart and what you truly want, that the universe will conspire to help you. And I have found that to be true on a number of occasions. So it's kind of a fake it till you make it life path, if you will. And this book, I've read it a number of times. It's one, I don't reread books all that often, but this one I have read a number of times, and I enjoy it as much each and every time, and I get something new out of it each and every time. So if you're in a mood to be uplifted, if you're in a mood of searching, if you're in a mood where you just need a good story that isn't depressing and horrible, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho is one of my go-to recommendations. Okay, next book. Anyone who has followed these book talks at all or listened to me talk about books at the library knows that Neil Gaiman is my author crush. I love Neil Gaiman. I love his books. They are all very strange, so they're not everybody's cup of tea. They're each one strange in a completely different way, which is what I love about him. He doesn't write the same book twice. Some people, which is great if you find it comforting, some people write a similar story over and over again. Neil Gaiman does not. They are all a little bit magical, a little suspense of disbelief, kind of creepy and dark in some parts, but also just wonderful. And of all of Neil Gaiman's books, my personal favorite is Neverwhere, which is the one I wanted to talk about here. NPR selected this as one of the top 100 science fiction and fantasy books of all time. So it's not just me that thinks this book is fabulous. It is. Unequivocally, NPR is the judge, I've decided. So this is a dark classic of modern fantasy, beautifully illustrated with, if you get the right edition, by Chris Riddell, and featuring, there is an author's preferred text, which is wonderful, but all versions of it are fabulous. The author's preferred text is slightly longer. I think he didn't have to edit as much for that one, which I enjoyed. So basically, this is the story of Richard Mayhew, who is a young London businessman with a good heart whose life is changed forever when he stops to help a bleeding girl, an act of kindness that plunges him into a world he never dreamed existed. Slipping through the cracks of reality, Richard finds Neverwhere, a London it's underground London, of shadows and darkness, monsters and saints, murderers and angels that exists entirely in a subterranean labyrinth. Neverwhere is home to Dor, the mysterious girl Richard helped in the London above. And here in Neverwhere, Dor is a powerful noblewoman who is vowed to find the evil agent of her family's slaughter and thwart the destruction of the strange underworld kingdom. If Richard is ever to return to his life and his former life and home, he must join Lady Dor's quest to save her world, and he may well die trying. This book is like, the best way I can describe it is like a modern steampunky Alice in Wonderland. He goes down the rabbit hole, literally and figuratively. Here it's a door into a subterranean London, but down the rabbit hole, and everything is like flipped upside down and nothing makes sense, and it's all wonderful and magical, and it will made me want to go back to London really badly. It's just a great story. It has a great, it feel good in moments, scary in moments. It's got all of the emotions. It's just so wonderfully written. So if you have never read a Neil Gaiman book, I would argue this one may be the least weird of some of them, are very strange. This one, I feel like, because it has that familiar fairy tale feeling, might feel a little more comfortable, and it's just fabulous. So we have copies here, and I hope that you will check out Neverwhere and then email us and talk to us about it, because it's awesome. Okay, next book. Time for a little nonfiction, because I do read a lot of nonfiction in addition to my fiction books. So this book, In the Heart of the Sea, The Tragedy of the Whale Ship Essex by Nathaniel Philbrick. I picked this one because I hated Moby Dick. I am an English lit major who will admit to hating Moby Dick. I had to read it in a Literature of the Sea class I took in undergraduate school, and I know it's a classic. I know there are lots of people that love it. I hated every moment of it. I am the granddaughter of a sailor. I really thought I would connect or relate. I found it boring and slow and frustrating, and I did not enjoy it at all. So when I saw that this book came out, which is the true story of the boat, the Essex, that is what the fictional story of Moby Dick is based off of, I thought, I can't imagine this is good. Like the fiction was, if the fiction is boring, how is the nonfiction not going to be? And man, was I wrong. Nathaniel Philbrick wins awards for a reason. This book is gripping. I learned a ton about whaling and the history of our country that I did not know. Did you know that Native Americans used to be able to whale from the shores? They never even got in boats to catch them. But we have, of course, overfished so much that then we had to go on year-long expeditions to even find whales to bring back. And because of that, they were saying that some of the boys who were raised to be whalers on Nantucket, actually it got to a point where they never saw a whale until they were hunting one, in person, because they had to go so far a sea that they would process them at sea and just bring back barrels of oil. And so some of these young boys who were signing up for this never even knew what a whale looked like, other than drawings. To see one, which is crazy to me. So I just learned so much. The story is gripping and gritty and tough, like many sailing stories. I mean, this was not an easy life. They would be gone for years at a time. It was very easy to die on voyages like this, either from starvation or malnutrition, or from the danger of when they would catch a whale, what that looked like, because they were often on a Nantucket sleigh ride, as they call it. So this book was everything that I wished Moby Dick had been, and I adore it, and for that reason, I picked it for this talk. He is the author of Mayflower and Valiant Ambition, and he tells the story of the true events that inspired Melville's Moby Dick. So it won the National Book Award, and this is a fantastic saga of survival and adventure steeped in the lore of whaling and the deep resonance in American literature and history. All of these things. So if you have not, by chance, which I think most people have read this at this point, you should pick it up, because if you are a fiction reader who thinks that nonfiction is boring, try this one. It is not boring. It is horrific at points, but just such a good story and so expertly told. And you will learn a lot, and you will relate a lot to the characters, and you will empathize with them. So it's all of the good things of fiction, and it's all true, because the truth is stranger than fiction often. So In the Heart of the Sea by Nathaniel Philbrick. Okay, next book. Back to fiction, not to give you whiplash, but this book came out years ago, maybe 2015 or so, And I fell in love with it immediately. It has a main character who's a librarian, so how can you not love that if you're a librarian yourself like I am? It also takes place on the North Shore of Long Island, which is where I was born and where my parents are from. And so that part of it, that locality part of it really got me. It's called The Book of Speculation by Erica Swyler. It is a debut, which is another thing I love. If you've watched these book talks, I love a first book. I think it has more time to germinate in the author's head before they have to they're not meeting deadlines and paying for advances. They're just writing for years and perfecting. So often I think the first book is a real gem, and I would say that about this one. It says that as Simon, a lonely research librarian, searches frantically for the key to a curse that might be killing the women in his family, he learns strange and fascinating secrets about their past. A tale full of magic and family mystery, the Book of Speculation will keep you up all night reading. And that is true. I read this in a day or two. I couldn't help it. So it's Simon Watson, a young librarian, lives alone in a house that is crumbling toward the Long Island Sound. His parents are dead. His mother, a circus mermaid, how do you not love that character, who made her living by holding her breath, drowned in the very water his house overlooks. His younger sister, Enola, ran off 6 years ago and now reads tarot cards for a traveling carnival. So the Book of Speculation is like a traveling circus log. That's what the actual book is. And it's just, so here's an idea if you are thinking what other book could this be like and if you would like it. They compared it to Water for Elephants, The Night Circus, and The Historian, which I loved all of. So if you've read any of those and really enjoyed them and haven't read this one yet, I think you would love it. It's just about the power of books and family and magic and all things that mean a lot to me. I gave this one to my mom and we read it together and she adored it also. So if you are looking for, it's a page turner for sure, but there's so much in it and it meant a lot to me. And it's one of the few books as a librarian, I tend to buy books only when they really mean something to me because I can borrow them. So why would I buy everything? But when I borrow a book from the library and read it and it really hits home, I buy it. And this one is in my home collection. So if you haven't read The Book of Speculation by Erica Swyler, highly recommend. Okay, I have one more book for you before we're done with our last ever book talk. So for my final book, I decided to pick All Creatures Great and Small by James Herriot. These are old books. They are classics in my opinion. The reason they mean so much to me is that my mom read them to me when I was a child. One thing the story I tell about this is that she used to read them to me and we would laugh till we cried, my brother and I, over the stories. It's about a Yorkshire veterinarian who is big animals and small animal practice, but it predates the days of technology and niceties. So he was often, shoulder deep in a cow in a freezing pasture. There are just some hilarious scenes and laugh till you cry stuff. And so I read them, and then when I was an adult, I decided I wanted to reread them. I was looking for something to lift my spirits. And all of a sudden, I'm openly weeping at some of the chapters. And I went back to my mom and I said, I don't remember all of the sadness in these books. And she said, oh yeah, I just skipped those chapters with you guys because you were little and I didn't want to make you sad. So I was a little upset at that point because I was like, how could you do that? And I did not anticipate all of the other emotions these books could bring out in addition to the laughter. But they do cover the full spectrum of kind of human emotion. And for that, I love them. They didn't get any less funny on my rereading, like literal tears and laughing out loud. But there is some tragedy because it's life and animals and pets, and that's how things go. They don't live as long as us and it's hard, but it's always worth it. And James Herriot is just this charming, lovely person. He has a cast of characters around him that are hilarious and relatable, especially if you live in a small town or ever have lived in a small town that had farming around you. You will probably recognize many people in these characters. And there's a whole series. So if you love this book, then there's others. There's All Things Bright and Beautiful, The Lord God Made Them All, all the lyrics of the song, and they're just fabulous. And also just beautiful countryside he describes and why he loves Yorkshire so much. And they've sold over 80 million copies worldwide. So you can't be going wrong here. These books are popular for a reason and they're wonderful. So if you're an animal lover, which I am, if you love a funny book, which I do, this All Creatures Great and Small you can't miss with this book. And I know that my mother would be recommending it to you as well if she could. So that's it, guys. This is the final book talk with me anyway. Matt may do some version of something like this, but we want to let him have the chance to make everything his own. So he's going to do his own things. He loves to talk books, though, so if you are wanting to talk books, please come in and see him, and he will be happy to talk you through everything. My last day is February 11th, the Friday. So if I don't see you before then, it has been an honor and a privilege and a pleasure working with you all for the last 10 years. And I will miss you all immensely, and I hope that you keep reading and keep supporting our wonderful library and all of the great staff here who are such fantastic people and adore you as much as I do. Thank you all so much for everything, and I don't want to get choked up, but thank you for everything, and I wish you all the best. Bye, everyone.